MS-DOS 6.22 or MS-DOS 7.1. Which version is better for retro PC gaming? I've been using both versions on all sorts of machines over the years, and I noticed a few key differences that I want to showcase and document in today's video. On the screen you can see my MS-DOS starter pack that I put together a while ago. A free download, you can grab it from my website. We're using the same starter pack with MS-DOS 6.22 and 7.1 to have a fair comparison. Let's choose the very first option, expanded memory plus a mouse driver and a CD-ROM driver, because the first difference is available free memory under DOS. We can type the command mem and then /c/p, and we get an overview of how much memory is available. On this machine, it does differ. This is a OEM motherboard, might not be as optimal as other ones. We're getting conventional memory. You can look here, 590K. So for the first option, 590K, I will put this in a table and let's add a few more results. What about extended memory with mouse and CD-ROM driver? And then also what about option number 4, expanded memory plus mouse driver, and finally conventional memory only. Let's put all the results into a table, and then we're gonna run the same thing with MS-DOS 7.1 and see if we can observe any difference. You can see at the top it says Microsoft Windows 98 startup menu. So MS-DOS 7.1 is part of Windows 98. You can see the splash logo here. Let's have a look at the available memory. You can see we only have 576K available. I put the results into the table. We can now compare MS-DOS 6.22 and MS-DOS 7.1 with 4 different memory configurations, and yeah, it is quite obvious that with MS-DOS 7.1 you will have less free memory under DOS. This does depend highly on the type of machine that you're using and how it's configured. I have some screenshots here how the memory is broken down. This is with the first option in the boot menu. We can see MS-DOS takes up only 15K of conventional memory, and also both the mouse driver and the CD-ROM driver are loaded into upper memory. However, the command is still sitting in conventional memory, but it only is taking up 3K of memory, and we're getting a total of 590K of available memory. And here is the memory breakdown with MS-DOS 7.1. I might put them side by side for easier comparison. We can see that especially system is much larger, taking up a whopping 31K in conventional memory. The drivers both got uploaded to upper memory. Also command ended up in upper memory, so that's nice to see. But all in all, on this machine at least, and on most other machines I've tested with MS-DOS 6.22, you will get more available memory. Another difference, and this one is more substantial, has to do with the supported partition size. We can see here, if you look at the primary master hard disk, it's a 32 gigabyte drive. I'm using a micro SD card. So with MS-DOS 6.22, unfortunately, we cannot use the full amount of storage. We can run the fdisk utility and selecting option number 4 to display the partition size, and we can see it supports only 2 gigabyte partitions. You can then create an extended partition with another 3 individual drives, so the total is 8 gigabyte split into 4 drives, 2 gigabytes each. MS-DOS 7.1 does have an advantage when it comes to the size of the partitions. Let's have a look. You can see here it supports FAT32, and we can see here we have a single partition that covers the entire capacity of the SD card, which is a 32 gigabyte SD card. And this is one of the key highlights of going with MS-DOS 7.1. You can use larger drives and have, well, put together a larger collection of your DOS games. On the flip side, MS-DOS 7.1 being newer, supporting FAT32 and large partitions, well, you guessed it, it can cause compatibility issues with certain games. Starflight is one such game. If we run it, it's looking for a floppy disk in drive B. Let's test the game under MS-DOS 622. Let's select EGA, and here we go. We can see the intro sequence and some music being played. In short, compatibility with DOS games under MS-DOS 622 is slightly better, but really only slightly. It's a handful of games that are affected. I'm not sure if there's an authoritative list out there, but it's something you definitely should know. And the last difference that I would like to showcase and mention is that MS-DOS 622 is a lot easier to install. So if you're a beginner, this is what I would recommend. It comes on 3 floppy disks. The hard drive can be totally blank. It's a boot disk. You boot from it, it will automatically partition and format it. You can choose the country, the language, all these options. So it's very beginner friendly, very easy to set up. In contrast, setting up MS-DOS 7.1 is a little bit more complicated. You see, it's part of Windows 98. You have your MS-DOS prompt, which is basically running DOS from within Windows. But to get the proper MS-DOS mode, you actually need to select shutdown and then restart into MS-DOS mode. Now, a while ago, I put together the MS-DOS mode super easy, which makes this process, well, easier, and it will reboot the machine, and then you'll end up in that same DOS startup menu that we saw before. But none of this is straightforward, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes. For beginners, it can be quite confusing between DOS prompt and MS-DOS mode. And then once you muck around with your startup files, you could end up with an operating system that doesn't boot back into Windows anymore. Also, there is no support for a vanilla DOS 7.1 installation. Of course, you can build something yourself using a startup disk, but then you need to extract all the DOS files from an existing 98 installation and also from the 98 installation CD. So the bottom line is it's not beginner friendly. You really have to know what you're doing if you want to have a clean DOS installation using MS-DOS 7.1. And there you have it. These are the main differences that I've picked up between MS-DOS 622 and 7.1. So which operating system do I like to use? Well, you might have guessed it, I prefer MS-DOS 622, of course. Having more free memory under DOS is important. The partition size, it's really not an issue. I'm not one of those game hoarders that need to install 100 games all in one go. I like to just pick a few games for benchmarking and testing, and if I really play a game, it's just one game at a time. If you're installing too many games, you end up actually playing less. At least that's what I experienced. I do use MS-DOS 7.1 if I have to install Windows 98 anyway. So let's say I'm doing a review on a video card that has drivers for Windows 98, and then I want to run some DOS benchmarks. Well, then I use the MS-DOS super easy pack, shut the machine down into MS-DOS mode, and then run DOS from there. So in this situation, in terms of performance, there is basically no difference between these two operating systems. And then the convenience of having Windows installed already, well, that's also a big plus. But if I work on a pure DOS-based project, then MS-DOS 622 is the way to go, hands down. For those of you who really don't like the capacity limitation, there are some workarounds to do with networking. FTP, for example, you can run a FTP server under DOS, but it might be easier to just run the FTP server on another machine on the network, maybe on your NAS, and then use Windows 3.11 with a nice looking FTP client with a GUI, and then it's quite easy to copy games back and forth. So guys, there you have it. This is my take on answering the question, should you use MS-DOS 6.22 or MS-DOS 7.1 for retro PC gaming? I'm curious, what is your take on this topic? What are you using? Please share your thoughts down below. I love reading your comments on Saturday. Well, actually, it will be a Wednesday morning because this is a Tuesday bonus video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for leaving comments and supporting me throughout the years. And that's it for this one. I shall see you very soon with another one.